welcome to the Treasures of Mount Shasta. I'm your host, Mikaelah Cordeo, and it's been my privilege to live in Mount Shasta for many years and to meet some of the most wonderful people I know. It's been my second home, and when I had the opportunity to begin this show, I was inspired by the Japanese tradition of identifying those really extraordinary talents in Japan. They designate them as national treasures, and that's how I feel about the people and the places in Mount Shasta, is that they're really treasures. And so I highlight each week a particular guest who's an author, a musician, an artist, or a teacher, and we go to one of the sacred places around town and around the mountain that maybe people might miss on a casual visit, and they might not even hear about if they're here for a while. So I take you to some of the very special places that we love so much. And my guest today is Joanna Cherry. I'm very glad to have you with us, Joanna.
Thank you, Mikaelah. It's wonderful to be here.
Joanna, I think I met you even before I moved here, and the first thing I noticed about you was that you were one of the nicest people I ever met.
Oh, thank you.
Well, you're very welcome. So, you've had quite a varied career. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of the things that are most interesting to you?
Okay, yeah. I began to become spiritually oriented quite some time back, about 3 decades, and I was guided. My whole life began to be guided, so that I moved from Memphis, Tennessee to San Francisco, California, and began to learn about rebirthing and ascension and immortality, the possibilities, and all kinds of wonderful things. And really, it began to awaken my own past life memories of learnings that I had already received. And so I got into a place where I felt ready to begin sharing them with others, and did workshops for quite a number of years, about 16 years, and then Spirit sent me to India and showed me that I was bored with doing workshops, and had been, and really hadn't let myself see it. And I was quite stunned by that, because that was what I was teaching, was to follow one's own guidance all the time. Oh, so yes. I gave up everything to God. I said, please take everything that doesn't belong to me. And over the next few days, I just felt everything leaving me, disappearing. And finally I said, well, how am I going to make a living?
Those little details.
Yeah. And Spirit showed me these beautiful pictures of masters that I had already been kind of organically, effortlessly gathering to offer to others, and asked me to expand them and get them out into the world, and to help humanity with them, because awakening humanity needed them. Right. So that's what I've been doing mostly since then.
So we have some of those pictures that you are selling and offering to the world. And our crew will be showing them, we hope, fairly soon.
Okay.
And why don't we just, we've selected 6 that people would be interested in, and I think the first one that you'd like to talk about is Babaji. So why don't you,
Yeah. Babaji is my closest inner friend. I read about him in Autobiography of a Yogi for the first time in 1976. And I had been reading this book, and this master was interesting. That one was nice. This one was. And I got to Babaji, and it was like, oh! So I knew him, and I invited him to come into my presence in a meditation when I couldn't stand not being with him anymore. I said, come here! And he did. And wow. He was like a whirling energy in the room, and he moved right into my heart. And I just started being guided by Spirit so much more deeply after that point. Okay. And I He's my closest inner friend and mentor. Sometimes I call him Master when he says, "You must do this," but he's actually one with my own inner presence, my own spirit.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, so, and then many other masters that I love and revere so much, Saint Germain and Jesus and Mary and
Yes.
Kuan Yin and many others, Buddha.
There's a picture of Saint Germain up now.
Oh, yes.
And there's Kuan Yin, famous picture, riding on a dragon, and she's holding a bottle of special nectar.
Yes.
Kuan Yin's one of my very special people.
Oh,
That's probably true for many.
She's amazing.
The goddess of compassion.
Yes.
And she also, prior to Saint Germain being the Chohan, or the highest world teacher on the Violet Flame, that was her role before. She was the Chohan, or the highest teacher on the Violet Flame. There's Saint Germain again. Seventh ray energy, Violet Flame, and that has to do with the transmutation of all negativity.
Mm-hmm.
And people are always astounded at how simple it is to work with Violet Flame. I tell people, imagine a campfire, make it violet, and then throw stuff in it.
Very good.
And, you can throw fears, you can throw anxiety, you can throw the argument you had with your partner or your boss, you can throw your early childhood concerns, you can throw past life problems, karma, you name it. Violet Flame transmutes it. It's wonderful.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Now, you've written a couple of books also, Joanna. You want to tell us a little bit about them?
This was a set of books I was guided to write about the unlimited possibilities of humanity. The first one is called Living Mastery, and the second one, Self-Initiations, and they are a set. Living Mastery is the ideas and the stories of many people who have experienced these wonderful things.
Yes.
And the second book, Self-Initiations, is about the how-tos, the actual work, the practice of getting these things done. So it was quite an exercise in spirit, and I think they've turned out as gifts to humanity.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, I know that they're being offered through your work, and people, if you want to keep a piece of paper and a pencil nearby when the credits come up, her website will be listed, and you can write that down and find out more about the books and the pictures and the whole collection. You have a lot of pictures.
Oh gosh, we must have 180 pictures now, something
Yes,
like that.
and they're quite awesome, and they're sold all over the world, I believe. So, when we first talked about the show, you mentioned something that had really just hit you between the eyes lately, and we know that there are many people going through life crises right now.
Yeah.
The economy's challenging people, and there's so many things happening. So why don't you tell us your story, and you are going to share an exercise with the listening audience on dealing with healing some core issues.
Okay, yeah. The times of light are here. The planet is really making a huge turn, a turn that it makes only about every 13,000 years. And we are right in the cusp of that turn, and it's bringing up a tremendous amount of light, of turmoil, of, as you say, of the darkness within each one of us coming up to be healed. I crashed my car a couple of weeks ago. It really shocked me because I always try to be so conscious about what is happening with me, and found this little kind of imp being inside that was saying, "Oh, if you get too happy, this is what's going to happen. I'm just going to squash it down." And so in working with that part of myself, I learned still more about deep emotional healing and clearing.
Yeah.
And so we decided that it would be a wonderful thing to share a little bit of that with you folks that are listening today. And So I don't know if you're in a position where you can just close your eyes and do this, or if you want to just write it down for later use, whatever works best for you. But the main thing is to realize, and I'm just kind of giving this over to the divine now because I've got all this stuff written, and but I just want the Spirit to do the communicating. That basically we've heard this, but it's been hard to believe, we are the creator at the center of our own universe. And there is nothing outside of us. So everything that we experience is something that we have created, that the so-called outside world is reflecting back to us. And there's nothing bad about any of it. And there's nothing like this one that I called the imp inside of me. I had experienced it rising up, a couple of times before. Every few years something would happen. But I always felt like it was my enemy, and that it was above me somehow, and mean and cruel and laughing at me and things like that. But in this time of developing much more love within myself, love is really the key to everything, as they say. I was able to finally be with this part of myself. I changed it. I renamed it. The imp made it sound awful. I just called it the little boy, because that's what it felt like, was a little boy. And I said, and I started talking to this part of myself, and I made it equal with me, not above and not below. And that was always something before that I had done in emotional healing, was to either look down like a superior teacher, on this little part that didn't know what it was doing, or if I felt like a victim, I would be looking up at it. But to realize that we are all just part of the same being, and that the I of I, or the consciousness of I, somehow created this part and gave it its job, told it what to do. So this little boy in me, I had given the job of, if I reached a certain degree of happiness, then the belief in me that happiness couldn't last created this little boy going, oh, okay, now I'm supposed to crash things down. So it's really to take responsibility for whatever is happening to us, whatever does take place. This accident happened in a parking lot that I've now realized they simply forgot to turn the lights on that night. It was pitch black. I was doing a sharp U-turn, and the side of my car hit a tree. I never could even see it. I didn't know what I had hit till I backed up. So, but that was still, I took responsibility that I created that, because it was that part of myself inside that did. And so one of the ways to get hold of something that we need to clear or heal is to think of something that we really want, something that we deeply desire in life, or else something that we really don't want, something that's really bothering us. And in either case, you can just begin by tuning in, thinking of these things, envisioning having this that you want or this that you don't want, and then start feeling inside your body. Just feel deeply inside your body and locate emotions or thoughts or both that are a reaction to having this thing or this difficult thing. And then you begin to kind of place it right in front of you. You love it. You start to love it, whatever it is, whatever it's done, whatever its job is that you've given it. You love and you embrace it as an equal part of yourself. And for me, I found myself apologizing, say, gosh, I'm so sorry. I gave you such a nasty job that you were supposed to destroy joy in myself when it rose. I really apologize for that. And so this part was finally able to go, oh, I've finally been heard. I'm finally known. I never wanted this nasty job. You gave it to me, lady, so I want to change it. I want a new job. So it was quite a breakthrough in this for me to realize that I was indeed the creator, and I had indeed given this job, and that I could have a new job. Now, the job of this little boy is to support all the joy that I can possibly have and to rejoice in it with me. And there were several other aspects. There was one, there was a little girl that was all reactive to the little boy, and a couple of others. So I worked with all of them around this one area, and all of them became totally resolved. So I'm not saying that this is just a real facile, instant way of healing, because some healings are so deep, they've come from so many past lives, they're in the subconscious mind. We cannot even begin to heal something until we're ready to see it, and we may not be ready to see it for quite some time. But once we are ready to see it, it means it's ready to come up now and to be healed and to be released, and then to move on. And so we gradually become clearer and clearer and clearer. And the more clear we become, the more all of the so-called mud or the difficulties wash away from our true being, which is just simply the divine. It is a divine self. It is a divine being that we are. And it's not to say, hoity-toity or anything high and mighty. It's just simply the way who we actually are, is divine beings. And so when all of this stuff, the difficulties, wash away, and the divinity can start to shine through, or can just shine through more and more and more than it ever has before, we become gods and goddesses here in the world, and that's what we're meant to do. A Course in Miracles tells us that. Every great teaching tells us that we are great and divine beings, higher than the angels, and loved and infinitely treasured by Goddess, God, by the universe, without whom there would probably be no creation. Every single part of creation is needed. Every single person is needed to make the wholeness of creation. And this is a great learning for each of us, to learn to value ourselves as we actually are, which is not better than anybody else. It's not less than anybody else. Whatever our life circumstances or our appearance or anything might be, it is that we are the equal with every other person. We are divine, like every other person. And to begin to live from this place. As the divine, we are love. We are truly love. And one of the great practices that I have been learning more and more about is when I go through my day and I come in contact with a certain person, or I'm in a store or something, to practice, I love you, I love you, I love you. And that if I find myself thinking of a person as less than divine, then I apologize inwardly. Please forgive me for thinking of you as less than divine. You are the divine. I see this now, I feel this clearly. We are the same, we are one. And it just helps enormously to uplift my own spirits, to attune me with my spirit, and to see that in everyone else.
Well, wow, thank you. You've touched on a number of things that are very important. When I was first in my early training, I studied a method called alchemical hypnotherapy, and it's somewhat based on the techniques of voice dialogue, and this is pretty much what you were doing. So I just want to refer people who are interested in following up on these ideas. You can look up online voice dialogue. You can look up alchemical hypnotherapy. There are people trained all over the world in these techniques. They really take you deep in talking to what we call the subpersonalities, the inner child, the inner mother, the inner judge, the inner critic, the inner lover, the inner adventurer. You've got many personalities existing within, and if they're not all going the same direction, it can create some complications in your life that consciously you don't want. So these are some wonderful tools to work with that. So thank you. What are some other things that are going on in your life these days that you'd like to talk about?
Well, I love the stewardship of the pictures. I love working at the office and getting new pictures in or seeing exactly how to be with the ones that we have.
Yeah.
And that and my social life and the inner work, and then occasionally speaking and teaching, that's pretty much what I do right now.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, you've written a lot about the process of rejuvenation and really reclaiming our youth.
Yes.
You were telling me something about that earlier.
Yeah, and that's quite an interesting process. I've been looking at that and kind of working at it here and there since about 1982, and it's quite amazing because I at first felt like there was just nothing in the way of it. I could just do it, and so I began with it, and then this wall came up, this great gray wall of fog, and I couldn't see what it was. I couldn't find out anything about it. I couldn't do anything with that for about 7 years, and that's a long time to be stopped by something.
Yes.
And finally, I was able to see when I was in a situation of speaking at my first kind of world large congress. It took a lot of courage for me to get up there because in many past lives as a teacher, I have been maimed or killed. And this courage then that rose up gave me the same courage to go into this wall. All of a sudden, I found myself flying toward this wall and right into it. And when I got there into it, I saw that I had been a pirate in another life, and I had killed a number of people, and that when I left my body, they were waiting for me.
Oh.
And so I got chased around the astral for about 50 years, or so it felt, and I was horrified, and so I had a huge fear of death that had come from that I had never been able to resolve. And so I know that this sounds esoteric. I know a lot of people don't believe in past lives. I didn't used to believe in past lives until I began to be shown them, till I began to see them and experience them, and then I knew that they were real. So I was able to heal this fear, and then went on to other things, a discovery of the pituitary gland that we have, because of our belief in aging and death and being divine, being creators, being one with Goddess God, our belief in aging and death, our knowing that that is the way that it must be, then commands the body to age and to die. And the pituitary gland, the master gland, says, okay, boss, you're the one, you're doing that. And so I was able to kind of reverse that and bring in life hormones instead, which was very, very helpful. And it feels like my body now has reached a kind of a stasis point. But the thing that I've realized, and this is just recently because it's been so frightening to me, even though I've done so much healing on past lives as teachers, that it's been the fear of standing up and being so different from other people that I hadn't quite faced or healed. So I'm about to work on that now.
Oh, that's really great. I know a number of people are exploring that and working with it. If you're involved in Focus on Ascension, then part of the belief is that one does not have to die, and one can certainly live in a healthy young body as opposed to a decayed old one. I mean, if you don't die, you don't want to necessarily not die at the age of 200 all decrepit.
Yeah.
So we're going to be moving now to the segment where we explore part of Mount Shasta, the physical beauty. We're going to our moment, and the pictures will be coming up on the telecast any minute now. Here we are. We're visiting the headwaters of the Sacramento River. I had been going to Europe before I came to Mount Shasta and visited a number of places of sacred water. And I was collecting sacred water, and when I came to Mount Shasta, I realized Sacramento. It means sacrament. And the waters come straight out of the side of a cliff right here in the city park. It's exquisite. Now, I was there on a day that was just wondrous. That was actual gold light in the water from the trees. They were just, it was extraordinary that day, the beauty. So I just want you to come with me, walk through the park. Here's a view. There are bridges across the river here, and it goes in through walking trails in the park. Some beautiful, beautiful places. Gentle, easy walk, very beautiful. Just drink in the nature spirits here. Tree energy is very powerful. I've been spending a lot of time with trees lately and finding, especially in the autumn, the trees are so beautiful. Here's one of the wooden bridges that is crossing over some of the creeks in there. Just beautiful. It was a beautiful day. The light was just coming through the trees in a gorgeous way. So just drink it in. Drink in the gold light. Drink in the strength and the beauty of the trees, the water, the gold. Just allow yourself to know that wherever you go, you can be surrounded by beauty. It can just fill you up. It can change your day. Just drink it in. And if you're in Mount Shasta soon, we hope you'll visit us and come to the city park and visit the headwaters, which are worth a trip. People come from all around the region to collect water here because the water is so pure. We think we have the best water, and here it is leaving the trail now back into the park. So we think we've got the best water in the world. And so if you come to Mount Shasta, be sure to try the water. Even the tap water is good.
People come from all over the area to drink this water, the headwaters that
That's
you're talking
right. They
about.
collect water. They bring their bottles in.
Yeah.
So we thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. And
It's been wonderful having you,
beautiful
Joanna.
show. Thank you.
And we look forward to seeing all the guests in the future.
Of course. All right.